This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to the South today. I'm Daryl Baser. New Zealand is in the second week of Level 3 alert status in the fight to stop the spread of the coronavirus known as COVID-19. There was not so good news at this afternoon's media announcement, with the Director General of Health, Ashley Bloomfield, saying there are 2 new cases of COVID-19 and another person has succumbed to the illness. But the Prime Minister says there is also some good news.
Probable and confirmed cases are now considered recovered. We have 2 people in hospital today. One is in Auckland City and one in Middlemore Hospital, and neither are in ICU. Sadly, today I have another COVID-19 related death to report. This is associated with the cluster at the Rosewood Rest Home and Hospital. The person who has passed away is a woman in her 60s. She had underlying health conditions and was considered a probable case of COVID-19 due to her clinical presentation and past exposure history, despite testing negative. This woman has been at Rosewood since 2011 and was a much-loved member of the Rosewood family, and I'm pleased to say, and you will, I'm sure, join me in understanding that a staff member was comforting her when she passed away. She was not one of the residents who'd been transferred to Burwood Hospital, but was still at Rosewood. Our thoughts, of course, go out to her family and her friends today in the days and weeks and months ahead.
Some of you will be aware of the news announced by Microsoft this morning that it is set to make a significant investment to establish a data centre region in New Zealand for its cloud services. I do note that this is subject to normal regulatory approvals. However, this is a hugely welcome development, not least for job opportunities in the near term for our construction industry and the longer term for our ICT industry and local innovators, but because it serves as a signal to the world that New Zealand is open for business and quality investment. Our decision to go hard and go early on the health front for COVID-19 has been our best economic response. Now it's about positioning New Zealand to recover and building on investment opportunities such as this one. More broadly, it is my view that by tackling the virus, we have positioned our economy to be able to rebuild ahead of many others globally. That is our safe haven strategic advantage.
And stay tuned to Channel 39 to see today's full announcement. Queenstown teenager Alice Robinson has capped off a tremendous 12 months on the slopes and has just received a prestigious award. The 18-year-old alpine skier has just been named Mercy Hospital Junior Sportswoman of the Year, following a season which has seen her compete around the world. Her rivals for the title were high-flying snowboarder Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott, who herself had a phenomenal season, and rising Dunedin-based swimming star Erica Fairweather, who spent the better part of the last 12 months breaking records in the pool. September is set to see New Zealanders not only voting in the general election, but also whether to legalise cannabis. Pro-cannabis protesters held their annual J-Day event in Dunedin at the weekend.
About half a dozen people gathered in South Dunedin on Saturday for what could be the last ever annual J-Day protest.
We're no longer protesting, we're no longer aggressively trying to bring something up in front of people. This is in the mainstream, everybody is having the conversation about it, and for once in my life I feel reassured that I'm on the right side of the debate.
Make It Legal Dunedin coordinator Bert Holmes says the country's fight against COVID-19 will affect the discussion about the upcoming referendum to legalise cannabis.
You know, the election coming up in September, the political year has changed. Not only just being a cannabis activist, but being a political individual myself. A lot has changed, and we may not have a usual political cycle where we have the time to have the discussions that the government would have been hoping leading up to the referendum.
Holmes says it's important that adults have a mature conversation about the pros and cons of legalising the drug.
This is a once in a generation, in fact, once in a multiple generation. This is the only opportunity that we've had to change the Misuse of Drugs Act since it was invoked in the mid-70s.
A yes or no vote to legalise cannabis is set to be included in the general election on September the 19th. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The annual Otago Rally is the longest running motorsport event in the country and has only been cancelled once before in its 40-year history. But with COVID-19 sweeping the globe, organisers have taken the decision to cancel this year's rally. And coordinator Roger Oakley joined me for a chat via Zoom this afternoon. Roger Oakley from the Rally Otago, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome.
So you've just announced the decision to cancel this year's rally. Firstly, how tough was that decision?
Well, I guess we indefinitely proposed it way back in March. And initially it was a really hard decision back then because a week before we'd made that decision, everything seemed not too bad with the whole COVID-19 crisis. And then, as we all know, the wheels fell off. So there was a little bit of disbelief that a year or more than a year's worth of work was going to have to be discarded. But then we looked carefully at what was happening around the world, at countries like Ireland and Norway or the UK and Australia. And the trend was very, very clear then that it went from a sort of a first case in New Zealand to 2 weeks later heading into the lockdown in countries. So it was, in the end, it was easy to understand that we had to.
And is this the first time the rally's been cancelled?
Well, first time in 40 years. The last time we didn't hold one was 1980, when it was a much smaller thing. So the Otago Rally is the longest running championship event in New Zealand, and its history goes back right to the origins of the sport, really. It's the first one was in 1976.
And I imagine as it's quite late in the game, it's usually around this time of the year. So how far along were the plans?
We were ready to go. I mean, the printing was done, the final adjustments to the details were being made, and we had to make a decision when we did because things were really going to ramp up in the next few days.
Competitors come literally from around the world for this. What sort of have you been hearing from them?
A huge amount of support, actually. I guess if there's anything that I guess fortunate about it, it was affecting everyone all over the world the same. So people were very understanding and, in fact, very sympathetic in supporting of the fact that so much work was going to have to be set aside.
And what about members of the public? Have you heard got much input from the public after it?
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, social media is fantastic these days for getting at least some kind of feedback from certain people. The two general sentiments were disappointment that perhaps their favourite event wasn't going to be running, and a lot of people have been looking forward to it. And I mean, we're perhaps unduly proud of the fact that last year we were, New Zealand's favourite rally event by probably an unbiased poll. So yeah, we were. The other emotion was support, really, and we'll see you next year.
What does it mean for motorsport, both in the region and nationwide?
I think, I mean, in one respect, we'll get over it okay. It's affected everyone evenly. The enthusiasm, what we've seen is the enthusiasm for the sport is still as strong as ever. And in some ways, there's going to be a bit of a pent-up demand for when the sport can restart. I suppose in a light-hearted way, you could say that we're going to end the year with competitors who've still got some money in their budget and cars which are still shiny. But there are wider effects. But we're quite confident that as soon as we're able to, the enthusiasm will be there.
You said earlier that you're ready to go. So what's the financial impact of cancelling it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we had to make the decision when we did. We were literally days away from really ramping into the commitment. I mean, the event cost way over $250,000 to run, and we'd stuff like printing had already been printed, but most of it we were able to cancel in time. We had, as an event, we'd had a very cautious approach over the years of building up some reserves, so we're still financially strong and able to get going as soon as we can.
Typically, it's an international rally, so typically there are a couple of rallying rock stars who travel for the event. Are you able to? Who was due to come this year, and have they managed to be re-signed for next year?
Well, yes, that's probably a bit of an exclusive, I suppose. Yes, we had 30 international teams coming this year, which was an all-time record for us. A star, if you like, was Mikko Hirvonen from Finland, who was fifth in the World Championship 5 years in a row behind Sebastian Loeb. He's already confirmed that he'll be back again, all things allowing. So we're very excited about that, and he'll be competing in the Classic Rally in one of those ubiquitous Ford Escorts.
Which are a lot of fun to be in.
And a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. It's always fun seeing the drivers who are used to the fully spec'd up four-wheel drives go into a two rear-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
That's quite a coup to have him saying provisionally he'll come back next year.
He was really keen, and in fact, we're very lucky. We've been bringing international drivers to the event for probably 20 years now. And so we've built up a reputation of what the event is, and that it's enjoyable, and that we'll deliver on any promises we make. But one of the things we've learned is that New Zealand in general, and Otago in particular, is a very attractive destination for these people to come. It's on their bucket list for a lot of people to see the region, meet the competitors, and just have a really good time.
So yeah, many of the motorsport legends, whose names are escaping me right now, have gone from the actual racing into the VR realm, to the video game sort of, or even with VR helmets and stuff. Are there any plans to have a virtual Rally Otago this year? No, they're not. But it is the way the sport is moving, and to be more available digitally. So. Some of the New Zealand apps, some of the New Zealand famous stages now available on some of the video games that you can buy, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this. In terms of the spectator experience, we're making the event far more available via tracking apps, via results websites, and when we were seeing if we could run this year, we were looking to really ramp that up so that people could follow it remotely. So I imagine some of the cars would have in-car cameras and all that sort of kit in them.
All do, yeah. All the cars have in-car cameras, and I guess what we're going to see in the future is much more of that being available, potentially even live. Let's hold our fingers crossed for 5G and what it might bring to us, but it'll be good for the sport.
And yeah, so you've... So where to here from now? To wrap it up, where to here from now? What's your next steps? You've cancelled this year. Does it give you more lead time for next year?
It does in some regards. I mean, we've got an event ready to go, and we're looking to run in April next year now. And so some of the planning has already been done. We, as far as possible, we'll look just to run this year's event next year. There'll be inevitable changes because there always is, but that's our plan.
Brilliant. Rod Drokley from Rally Otago, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
And beginning with the southern view from camera operator Johnny Visser through the eyes of a spider. Looking at the situation, a westerly airflow will bring showers to the west and south coasts tomorrow, but more widespread showers are likely on Friday as more fronts arrive from the Southern Ocean. In the southern towns, fresh westerly winds and mostly clear skies prevail. Gore heads for 15 degrees, while Balclutha, Lumsden and the Catlins should all reach 16. Heading to the Central Lakes, it's due to be warmer here as well, with fresh southwesterlies and some high cloud. Wanaka heads for 17 degrees, Queenstown 16, and it should be 18 in Alexandra, with Tiano reaching 14 degrees. In the northern towns, moderate westerlies and some cloud are also the order of the day here. Timaru heads for 18, while Oamaru should reach 17, with Twizel and Omarama in line for a rather pleasant 18 degrees. In Dunedin tonight, it should be cloudy with northerly winds and an overnight low of 9 degrees. Mostly fine tomorrow with high cloud and moderate northwesterlies, with temperatures becoming milder. Expect a high of 16 and a low of 11 degrees. It'll be cloudy with showers on Friday, clearing from mid-afternoon, but the wind will swing back to the south, bringing a high of 13 and a low of 9 degrees. And heading to Invercargill, it'll be mostly cloudy tonight with showers and an overnight low of 9 degrees. Cloudy again tomorrow with a few light showers at times before rain sets in tomorrow night. You should have a high of 14 and a low of 10 degrees. The rain eases to showers on Friday with fresh gusty cold west to southwest winds. You can expect a high of 12 and a low of 9. And that's all from the South Today team for this Wednesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. And stay tuned to Channel 39 for the latest COVID-19 updates from the government. Have a great evening. Remember, it's best to stick to your own bubble. And ka kite apopo. See you tomorrow.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.